All right. Yeah, I kept hitting the profile.
Crowdsourced by technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Hello, Tom. Welcome.
It's so great to be with you, Kinsey. And, it's amazing to see what happened today. Unquestionably, the best thing that's ever happened to Twitter. It had become an abandoned building in a bad neighborhood with graffiti all over it. And Elon Musk came in as a distressed buyer, and he's going to turn the whole thing around. He's going to get the graffiti off, rehab the property, expand the size, allow more inhabitants, and turn it into something great.
Oh, Tom, we got a hot take off the bat. I love to hear that. I want to get into why exactly you feel that way about this deal in just a moment. But before we do that, let's talk for a second about the timing, right? If we do want to continue this metaphor of Twitter being an underinvested kind of a property that has graffiti on the side of the building, right? Why now to buy this property? Let's talk about the timing. Twitter's board accepted this deal. This was just days after making that very public effort to enact a poison pill that was essentially created to thwart Musk from taking Twitter. So what happened to instigate this pretty rapid turnaround?
Well, he had the option to do a tender directly to shareholders, and it's apparent. I mean, I'm shocked that the board took so long to say yes, because at the end of the day, they've had the business for 9 years since IPOing and delivered absolutely zero value to shareholders. You could buy the stock for the same price as when it IPO'd 9 years later, while the tech sector has absolutely exploded to the upside. So they should be embarrassed about the value destruction that has taken place over the last 9 years, and they should be grateful that their saviors come to save the platform and turn it into something great for free speech and for commerce, and for everyone that's using it will feel safe to come back on board once it's cleaned up.
Do you think this was the best deal that Twitter could get? Because, to your point, Twitter has often been criticized the way that the business is run, the lack of providing value to shareholders, to your point. But I wonder if this is the best possible deal Twitter could get. It's not like we're just talking about Elon Musk snapping up some tiny startup. This is Twitter, right? This is a huge company. This is a company with a lot of history, with a lot of social capital. Do you think this is the best deal that this company was going to get?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought Musk would have to go up to a six handle, and I'd even joked on other interviews that maybe 64-20, but at the end of the day, he boxed them. And if they did not accept his offer, he would have just gone to shareholders with a tender. Because by putting this out there, no, they've got a couple of things happening. Number one, their earnings call is coming out later this week, which is probably going to be a disaster, and they knew it. So if Musk had backed out of the deal and they delivered a terrible earnings call, you'd probably have a three handle on the stock, 30, $25, and then they're toast. And then he can come back in 3 months and buy it for $30. So this was the best deal they could get. And they knew that if they didn't say yes, he'd do a tender directly to the shareholders. Many of them would have probably accepted it, which would have given him more influence, and they would have had to back off the poison pill. And that's what happens when you have a producer against kind of stewards. The producers usually win, and that's exactly what took place here. And I think the country is going to be the country, and maybe the world. More people will be attracted to it. Are going to be much better off for it. And what I love about Musk is that he said explicitly that the most left people, 10% most left people, and the 10% most right people on the political spectrum are going to be unhappy. But the 80% right down the middle that have maybe become uncomfortable in recent years with what Twitter has turned into are going to feel a lot safer coming back and engaging in the public square and really enjoying what the platform was meant to be. So it's a good day for everyone.
Yeah, you bring up the idea of the public square, which is an oft-debated concept when we consider what free speech is, but more importantly, what free speech should be. If we want to consider Twitter as the public square, we do have to recognize that even in a public place, you can't shout, "There's fire" in a theater. There are measures on free speech for a reason. Those measures are enacted to keep people safe. And when we're talking about free speech on a platform like Twitter that is run by an algorithm that does promote content in a very specific way, that often rewards content that is perhaps more incendiary, as most tech platforms do or can do you have any concerns about free speech? Elon Musk is somebody who is pretty famously mercurial, pretty famously skirts the rules in a pretty famous way. So I'm trying to hint at the fact that Elon Musk is kind of a wild card of a person. So to have somebody like that at the helm of a company that is responsible for 217 million users, a lot of journalists using this as a tool, a lot of people using Twitter as a means of communicating information in times of crisis. Are there any concerns there for you?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you spoke to the key point, Kinsey, is that the algorithms promote things that get traction. The problem with the algorithms had been that they're programmed by humans, and it's unequivocal that those algorithms had become biased in one particular direction. And I think what you'll see is if there's any hint of that level of bias moving forward, my sense is that Elon Musk would probably publicly disclose the code so people could actually investigate how content is being pushed and ensure that both people on both sides of the spectrum would be comfortable that there wasn't a bias programmed into the code, which had created an environment that many people left. And I think the other thing you're going to see from Elon Musk is he's going to be very, very effective in bringing back celebrities that have large followings on the platform, and as he noted, haven't tweeted in 3 months or 6 months with millions of followers. And as those people become more engaged and it becomes more interesting, I think journalists are going to have more stories. I think there's going to be more connections, like you're seeing more and more on LinkedIn. And I think it's going to be great for the journalist community. They're going to feel protected. They're going to feel comfortable getting their information and giving information on the platform. And those 10 people on the extremes of the bell curve, on the extreme right or the extreme left, I think it's going to be a lot harder for them to yell fire in the crowded theater.
I think much of this will come down to just watching what happens, which I know is a very unsatisfying answer, an unsatisfying strategy. But I think in a lot of ways, we just have to wait and see in terms of what this new free speech looks like on Twitter, because it does sound absolutely fantastic that we can make, the 10% on the left, the 10% on the right feel pretty unhappy when it comes to the political extremes. But at the end of the day, we just have to see if that actually happens. As a journalist myself, I have my doubts that, the idea of free speech is not necessarily limited to anybody, but it's also not a privilege that just anybody can enjoy for reason. And I wonder if, creating this ethos of free speech for all, no matter what, has perhaps created a sense of this is the Wild West for some people who are going to be Twitter users. So I do wonder if, perhaps with this welcoming of people who have not tweeted in a while because they're unsatisfied with the way Twitter works, might also come at the same time as an alienation of some of Twitter's power users because they're unhappy with how it's going to be run under Musk. So that brings me to a question about how all this plays out down the line when we're considering what's going to happen next. Can you walk me through exactly what might be the next timeline of events and at what point we're going to actually start seeing Elon Musk's influence in the way that Twitter runs its strategy, runs its business?
Yeah, well, I think, to speak to your point just about free speech, I think the number one thing that's going to be on the agenda is authentication. So when he cleans up all the bots and the outside influencers, as had been rumored with different elections, and he cleans that up where everyone on the platform will have to be authenticated, you can yell fire in the crowded movie theater. The problem is you're gonna face consequences. Whereas if you're an Android profile and no one knows who the heck you are, you can say whatever you want. When they know exactly who you are and you've registered your identification, it's going to be a lot harder to say things that you don't face accountability for. And that's going to be the number one thing, is just self-accountability to what you say. You can say whatever you want, but there are consequences when you say things that can harm other people, like yelling fire in a crowded theater. The other things, I think we'll see probably an expansion of the 140 characters. We'll see most likely he'll bring in someone from his existing enterprises that he trusts to execute on these things, that maybe they don't have a chance of becoming CEO at Tesla or at the Boring Company or at Neuralink or at SpaceX. But they could come in. He knows that they have the ability to execute. He knows they have the technical mindset, the can-do attitude. And my sense is a few steps backwards. They'll lose some people initially. They'll probably double the user base over the next 3 to 5 years. And you can expect an IPO coming to a theater near you within the next 3 to 5 years. The difference will be valuation, probably 2 to 3x what he paid today.
So when it comes to an IPO down the road coming to a theater near you, I love that. Musk has talked about taking Twitter private, would be the largest deal to take a company private in at least 2 decades, according to Dealogic. What does that mean for investors who hold the stock right now?
So they're going to get taken out at a 38% premium, a much higher value than the intrinsic value of the business right now. So they should be thanking their lucky stars that they're getting bailed out of it. And then moving forward, they'll have an opportunity to participate in a brand new platform at some point when they IPO in the future. Several years down the road as the business has gotten bigger, more economic, productive, and become a safe place where both users and advertisers feel comfortable participating and benefiting from the new platform.
So, Tom, you made an interesting point. I'm not sure if this was the point exactly, but it's one that I certainly picked up on when you mentioned all of the different companies that Elon Musk might be able to pick somebody from to lead Twitter. SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, the Boring Company. Former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey has, of course, gotten a lot of flack for, at the time, being the CEO of Twitter and Square. But Elon Musk has many more companies that he is running right now. Do you think that'll impact taking on Twitter, including Twitter in that cabal of companies, will impact the way that Musk runs his businesses? And I think perhaps the most important to pay attention to right now is Tesla, seeing as this is a publicly traded company. What do you think this is going to mean for Tesla if Elon Musk, famed innovator, is taking over another company to go, implement his innovative skill set over there?
This will be the best thing that ever happened to Tesla. Not only the best thing that happened to Twitter, the best thing that happened to Tesla. This is an absolute marketing machine for Tesla. They spend $0 on advertising, and because of his influence and because of his attention that he garners on the Twitter platform, he's created an unbelievable brand that people want to be a part of with Tesla, and he's changed the world with the green movement as a result of it. So he's done more for climate change than anyone else with zero advertising dollars as a result of the following and influence he's been able to garner on Twitter. So if I was a Tesla shareholder, I'd be saying, please spend as much time as possible on Twitter, because that's a free marketing machine to sell more cars and eventually humanoid robots and eventually robo-taxis and all the exciting things that he has down the line.
But should that not give us pause from an antitrust or a regulatory standpoint?
Completely unrelated. There's no competition between Twitter and Tesla. They're unrelated businesses. It's the same as Jeff Bezos buying the Washington Post. It completely has nothing to do with Amazon. But it certainly gave Bezos political influence for sure. In the case of Musk, I think you'll find that he's kind of straight down the fairway, and if people start to doubt that, he'll make the code open source so people can judge it for themselves.
Yeah, I guess that would be in a perfect world, right? Or in a scenario that this all works out according to plan, which is not something that typically happens when Elon Musk is at the helm of a business. Certainly the plan works out, but it might not be the original plan. It might be plan B or C or D or plan W, So I think that's important to keep in mind. Now, one last question that kind of pertains to Musk as a character, and as a character who is incredibly identifiable with a very specific personal brand. He's also the richest person in the world. We're talking about this one singular individual taking over a company that's used as a tool by millions of people all over the world. Is there any concern with that? That somebody even has this amount of influence that they can exact because of the number of zeros behind their net worth? Is that something you're considering?
Well, he's earned it. He's absolutely changed the world. Name one other person in the world that's had his influence in terms of the green movement, in terms of climate change, in terms of value generation for shareholders, which, by the way, are represented by pensions, retirees, fire workers, police workers, etc. I can't think of any. If you can think of someone else that deserves that platform more, I'd love to hear it. But I think he's doing, by and large, good things. SpaceX, reusable robots. It's staggering. My biggest regret is not owning his stock, because I always thought it was too expensive. The guy is everything he's put his mind to, sooner or later comes out. Plan B, plan C, plan D. The key is he creates good value in the marketplace, and the market is rewarding him for doing that. He's literally the Thomas Edison of our day, and I think it's going to bring good things. And I think the people that are doubtful in the beginning are going to be very happy in the end. And I think the people that are very happy in the beginning are going to be moderately happy in the end. And I think that's his goal, is that he hits it down the middle of the fairway, nothing too extreme on the right or the left, and a safe environment for advertisers, for users, And he'll be, Elon Musk will be Elon Musk. I mean, he's got 44 billion reasons to make it work, and I think he's going to. And the only way to make it work right is to ensure that everyone is included, everyone feels comfortable, and everyone feels that it's fair.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part of this conversation is trying to separate, where exactly Elon Musk has been at his best, right? Elon Musk is by any means imaginable an innovative person. All of the examples that you gave of the ways that he's added value to the world are certainly innovative and these incredible technologies. But when it comes to something like Twitter, I do wonder if the same kind of innovation can be applied. Twitter is, of course, a tech product and it should be classified as such, but this is Elon Musk getting into a realm that he potentially doesn't have a whole lot of background in. We're talking about media, we're talking about free speech. Elon Musk is somebody who's really great at getting people to space and making electric cars. Is he going to be really great at social media? I think is a big question that a lot of people have. At what point can we get to an answer to something like that? Do you think this is going to be immediate? Is this a longer term play? I guess what's the timing in your view, Tom?
Yeah, well, I think I think you look no further than he's quite good at social media. And if you haven't noticed, he's got about 85 million followers, which is a lot more than many people on Twitter. So he's already figured out part of it. Number one. Number two, he's also the co-founder of PayPal. So he knows a thing or two about technology. He knows a thing or two about assembling teams of computer scientists to make great products that change the world, which PayPal did in its day. So I have no doubt that this is going to be the exact same scenario. As far as the timeline, my guess is he'll fumble around. He'll look under the hood for the first 4 to 6 months. Nothing will happen. 10% of angry people will leave. They'll say it's the end of the Twitter. You'll see hashtag delete Twitter for the next couple of months. And then 2 years from now, it'll IPO at 120 to 150 billion, and everyone will say what happened. And that's Elon Musk. You can doubt him or you can join him. But at the end of the day, remember, I'll tell you the best thing about Twitter. You remember all the people on Twitter in the last 3 to 4 years that had TSLAQ, which was a ticker symbol that implied that Tesla was going to go bankrupt because Elon Musk didn't know what he was doing. And all these smart hedge fund guys in my community and in the investor world were so convinced that Elon Musk was going to go bankrupt with Tesla, and he smoked them. And he sent out packages of what he called shorts to all the shorts that were shorting his stock. And he proved them wrong, not with words, not with hope, not with promises, with action and with results. And this time will be certainly no different, Kinsey.
All right. Well, Tom, I think that is a great place to wrap this up. Certainly, time will tell, I suppose. As you mentioned, it comes down to actually acting. Words can express a lot, but action expresses a whole lot more in this world that we live in. So we will have to do a little check-in here in a couple of months and see just how well Elon Musk is or is not doing as the head of Twitter. What an astounding sentence to say. Hard to believe that I'm actually saying it here on Public Live. But Tom, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Kinsey. Appreciate it.
And thank you to all of you out there for listening. I hope that you enjoyed and learned from this conversation. I will be back on Public Live later this week. And I guess good luck out there. I hope everybody is enjoying their Twitter timelines. Mine is certainly an interesting hodgepodge of tweets and takes. It's been a crazy day out there. So hope you enjoyed, hope you learned. Have a fantastic rest of your Monday, and I will see you next time.